Hey, it's Mazzy. Welcome back. This is the Soul Vinyl Tag 2024, a series of 20 prompts written, pulled together, culled together by Scott, Vinyl Vertigo out of Florida. And I'm going to jump right in. No preamble this time. So, name the most listened to soul album that you have. How do we even know that? But one of ones that I keep going to, and fortunate enough, this came out in my record store days, so we heard it constantly in the store. Probably one of the most famous, biggest selling double albums of all time is Songs in the Key of Life. Stevie Wonder. I don't really need to tell most people about this. This is a must have in any great music collection, soul or otherwise, but a fantastic double album and a tour de force. But Stevie Wonder had a series starting in 71, 72 of amazing, great run of records. No equal, really. Elton John, maybe, is the other person in the early 70s like that. But no one had that great, not just great creative output, but great force. Little Stevie Wonder, he was at Motown early on in the 60s, and it was a whole different feel. And I love how these artists like him and Marvin Gaye got control and really pushed their music, maybe a little more urban, a little more, social and political at a time. And that is one of those wonderful records. Your most recent soul purchase. This is one of many, but this is a special one because it's a huge friggin' box set. This is Diamonds and Pearls, the complete and with outtakes by Prince. This came out last fall, I believe. And I won't get into it in detail. I'll put a link below. I did a conversation on this box set with John out of Birmingham, who's one of the premier vinyl community soul sensations in terms of his knowledge and output of soul music. But this has outtakes, live stuff. I mean, Prince was one of those few artists, maybe like Dylan in a way, who sometimes a lot of his outtakes and vault releases were as good as other artists, proper releases. I mean, these are not just clips of things. These are like, in many cases, finished songs and just a wonderful set of soul music. A male soul artist. Again, too numerous to count, but if I had to pick one, not necessarily my favorite, depends on the mood I'm in, and I want something a little more, out there in front and intense, except for this song that I pulled, and that is Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Otis Reading. Of course, came out, I think, right before or right, posthumously. He died way too young. I believe he's one of the 27 club. But this song is sentimental. First of all, it's a beautiful song, and hit the, if not number one, it was close to the top of the charts when it came out in 1968. And it was written from the point of view from Sausalito across the Golden Gate Bridge to San Francisco. So it has sentimental value to me. It's just a beautiful song with that whistling at the end. And here's just to show another. This is a fantastic issue that came out in the last decade or so. And this is live at the Whiskey in Los Angeles. Great live. This came out CD and vinyl. And what a great cover of that time. Again, recorded, I believe, around 66 or 67. It literally says 1966. Otis Reading, male soul singer, one of many. A Stax release. Again, so many possibilities, but I am picking the Staple Singers. This is a box set of their secular work on Stax record. And of course, this was the big one with this hit, Respect Yourself. What a great Papa Staples, Mavis Staples. What a great family output of the music, of soul music, and crossing over from the gospel. Their earlier records, I believe some are on Monument Records, and some kind of independent, soulful gospel music. And it's worth checking out their gospel records. They're really beautiful religious singing. I love the Staple Singers. And of course, Mavis Staples in the last, for so many years, but in the last decade, has put out like 3 to 4 solid records produced by a number of artists, including Jeff Tweedy and Ry Cooder. Those are wonderful, very soulful, swampy soul records. Love Staple Singers and Mavis Staples now, who is still with us. Okay, a soul artist not from America, there's again a number to choose from. I decided to go with Sade, however you want to pronounce it. Remember when they said pronounce Sade? I think that was wrong on that Columbia, one of the first pressings, I think. She was born in Nigeria, but early age grew up in London. And what great! This is kind of a soul, smooth operator, smoldering, sexy, jazzy soul music. And this is one of those things you'd hear people blasting in their car radio with that bass and that percussion and just really sexy music. Sade, not from here, not from America, where I am. The next prompt is a female soul artist. Again, too many to choose from, but I want to show two that I am particularly into the last several years. And one is an artist that I knew her big hit in the 70s, in 73 or 4, and I never really followed her beyond that. And that is Peebles. I can't stand the rain. And that wonderful percussiveness. These records were produced by Willie Mitchell, and the backing band is basically the same band, same producer as the Al Green records. Now, I'm not showing any Al Green records this time, but he's someone that just really crossed over in a lot of areas, made fantastic records. I don't want to disregard her thing and say she's like the female Al Green, because she's her own woman, her own person, but makes fantastic records. These records are sorely overdue for a reissue series. They were on, I think, London Records, Hi-Fi Records, that label, Willie Mitchell's label, I believe, through London. Fantastic. But this is the one that, of course, everyone knows. Then there's another series of records to show you, and every single one that I have in my collection. Fantastic. Now, I doubled my soul collection because of my late friend Coleman Burke, who ran a soul R&B band for 40 years, a party band. 4 great black singers up front, 2 men, 2 women. He was the band leader, the guitar player, the manager, the booker, and they did, weddings and bar mitzvahs and corporate events and, live club shows and stuff. And when I lost him, we curated his collection. I think I doubled literally my soul collection from Coleman's soul collection. And these and People records were some of them. And I just was blown away because I had never heard these records before. And even in my record store days, I don't remember, aside from that, these records. I don't know why. It was just one of those blank generations. The other one I've gotten into the last year, and thankfully Light in the Attic has been reissuing these, and that's Betty Davis. And Betty Davis, of course, she's like the funkiest, soulful woman. And Light in the Attic repressed these recently. So if you don't have these records, you need to check these records out. They're so funky, they're so sexy, they're so soulful. Betty Davis, great records. This is one of my favorites, but all of them are good. Check them out. This one is the one that goes a little more into the dancey disco period somewhat. Obviously, that little kind of deco design type thing was happening in the later 70s, early 80s. But Light in the Attic has issued these, and I think they have 4 or 5 records they put out. Betty Davis, so Peebles and Betty Davis, 2 great soul women. Next is a gospel album by a soul artist, or a single, and the single which really became an iconic song was out of a church out of Oakland, California, Northern California State Youth Choir, by director Edwin R. Hawkins, and that is Let Us Go Into the House of the Lord. This was a private press, church press, this wonderful record, and this is an amazing sounding record. If you think audiophile is just for the overpriced, expensive studio things, you got to listen to the sound of this record if you can find a copy. Dimension 70 Recording Century Records out of Oakland, California. It has a whole, you could send away for other additional records at 50% mailing to Oakland, California. And of course, the Church of God in Christ, but the song that was up on the charts, Oh Happy Day, You've heard Oh Happy Day. George Harrison heard Oh Happy Day. He says, I didn't rip off He's So Fine. If I took it from anything, it was from Oh Happy Day, My Sweet Lord. What a beautiful, beautiful gospel. I love gospel music. And this is a record that if you need to find this record, if you like soulful gospel music, fantastic. It's never been reissued as far as I know. Of course, that single has turned up. There's the Rhino gospel box I have on CD that has it. So you can get the song probably on comps more than finding that record. The next one is a blue-eyed soul artist. And, blue-eyed soul basically means white people singing soul. And there's obviously, Boz Scaggs is one, and Robert Palmer, Hall & Oates. But I decided to go from 1965 with the Righteous Brothers, You Lost That Lovin' Feelin'. That song produced by Phil Spector. What amazing. That in its own, just its own entity, that record is a special, like wall of sound masterpiece. Bobby Hatfield and Bill Medley. The rest of this particular album was produced by Bill Medley. He had the low kind of baritone voice, and Bobby Hatfield had the tenor, the higher notes, But You Lost That Lovin' Feelin', the way it builds, the way it steps, is a fantastic record. So Blue-Eyed Soul, I'm giving it to the Righteous Brothers today. The next prompt is soul artist that more people should be aware of. And here's someone who is an amazing artist. There's not a lot of output we have from her because she died way too young. And first I'm going to show this, the song that really kind of, broke her and led it, as far as I know, is with Marvin Gaye, but it's Tammy Terell. Marvin Gaye with Tammy Terell, and that is Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Unfortunately, she only had one solo album, Irresistible Tammy Terell. This was reissued on Record Store Day a few years ago. It's already hard to get. This record should stay in print. And this was on Motown Records. She died on stage, or she had a brain tumor on stage, fell into the arms of Marvin Gaye. And then I don't know how long later, but she died tragically way too young. So Tammy Terell is someone you should know about. What a voice. What a future this woman would have had if that hadn't happened. But, find this record, used copy on Motown. The duets album, Marvin Gaye's done several with women, but Tammy Terell is amongst my very favorite. Next is soul artist featured on a rock album. Well, the obvious one that I think of, and it's just so great, and it is, Gimme Shelter, Mary Clayton, who sings Rape, Murder, just a shout away. The story goes she was pregnant. She was called in late at night, very late at night, just to belt that out. She has a series of amazing solo albums, including this. This is on, is it Ode Records, I believe? And this is a fantastic record. Ode Record was Lou Adler's label, obviously very famous for the label that put out Tapestry, Carole King. But her records are really soulful rock records, really well done, and just she belts it out. What a voice. But of course, her voice from the Rolling Stones, one of their best albums, Let It Bleed, from 1969. The next one is a Motown release. So many, but I want to show Meet the Supremes. Now, this is the 1965 repackage, where they just changed the cover. There was more of I think this came out in 62, I believe, initially. This didn't have a lot of hits that we know of the Supremes, of course. Meet the Supremes, before Meet the Beatles, great record. All of their records are great. I tend to like the Supremes with Diana Ross. I wasn't a huge fan of her solo output, although I do have several of her records. But the Supremes, one of the great Motown bands, one of the great female bands of artists, singers of all time. The Supremes. Meet the Supremes. Soul artist that deserves a box set. These can't have a box set of all these because this is different labels. I'm thinking Parliament and Funkadelic. Parliament, Funkadelic, the merging. of all Parliament Funkadelic. Different labels from West Side Records to Casablanca to Warner Brothers. I understand, though, there are Westbound records coming out from analog tapes. Not a box set, I don't think, but, and I'm not sure which albums they're doing, but I just saw a thing this year. You're going to get some Funkadelic, some albums coming out here. But of course, Bootsy Collins and George Clinton, Tear the Roof Off the Sucker, all that stuff. Great stuff. You couldn't really do a box set because these multi-label things, but that would be a cool thing if you could license it and get the labels to kind of come together in a kumbaya moment to put it together as a box set. More funky soul music, definitely. Great, great music. A soul act you've seen in concert. Well, I had to show The Godfather of Soul. I saw him probably late in his career. I saw him in the probably early 1980s at the Stone on Broadway, which was a club. I actually also saw the Plasmatics and XTC. And I saw the only time I ever saw James Brown. Of course, this is the most famous, one of the most famous soul live albums ever, live at the Apollo. So I could put this on another prompt, but this is a fantastic record. It's been issued with various covers and packages, but James Brown, live at the Apollo. I saw him early 80s, I guess, in San Francisco. The next prompt is a jazz record by a soul artist. This is, I kind of bent the rules for this one, but I've showed this record before, and this is a very favorite record of mine. They're more of a pop group that did this amazing Brazilian jazzy record. And this is Sergio Mendes in Brazil 77. A lot of people know him for the female vocals of like Fool on the Hill, Brazil 66, and all those records, all the TV shows they were on in the 60s, and very pop. Not quite like, Up, Up and Away, that kind of light pop soul music. But, a very Brazilian forward group. But in 1970s, this record came out. What year was this? I don't remember what year was this, but this is one of the best sounding, most beautiful records in my collection, my jazz collection. It does cross over in Brazilian jazz. It's very percussive. It's very instrumental with some wonderful percussive effects. This is a great record. If you can find one of the early A&M pressings with this label, you're going to get an amazing sounding record. So seek out an original there. Obviously, A&M's labels changed more in the 73 period, I guess, 72, 73, whatever. But this is one of my all-time favorite albums, a jazz, poppy sound, very soulful and very wonderful. It's called Primal Roots, and it's a must-have record. I love this record. That should be It's the Music Stupid. I think I actually included it in one episode at some point. The next prompt is a soul artist in a group and a solo recording. Meet the Temptations. Probably definitely my favorite of the Motown group of male soul singers. This is on the Gordy label, which was our parallel, I guess, or sub-label of Motown, definitely Berry Gordy's label. What a fantastic vocal outfit. I even love later when they get into sort of psychedelic soul with Psychedelic Shack. But the lead singer, the main singer, was David Ruffin. And this is a soul record. This is a promo record I got from the Coleman collection, and I adore this. And what's wonderful about this copy was autographed to my friend Coleman, and I got it from his collection. To Coleman, a very nice young person, David Ruffin. And I think Coleman's band, as I mentioned before, Pride and Joy, he met people like Smokey Robinson. They're on bills with Smokey Robinson, David Ruffin. Could a great act. So David Ruffin and the Temptations, solo and group. The next prompt is a favorite soul song. Again, so many. This is one of those questions that you have to just kind of narrow it down. And I'm going with Stevie Wonder. It's not the biggest hit on here, but it's the closing track on here. And it's I believe when I fall in love, it will be forever. Shattered dreams, worthless years. Here I am, encased inside a hollow shell. Life began, then was done. Now I store into a cold and empty well. I stare into an old and empty well. That song, I've always liked that song, but I got sort of a rekindling of that years ago with the movie High Fidelity, with John Cusack. At the very end, the closing credits, they use that song. And for some reason, I go, oh, shit, I forgot about that song. What a great song. So I went down, tracked it down, which album it was. I'd forgotten, but it's such an amazing song. Oh, my God. I believe when you fall in love, this time it'll be forever. Can't sing, but Stevie Wonder. Talking book with Braille. Next is a reggae soul artist release. Well, this is a reggae album, so, I think all reggae has soul in it. And this was sort of my introduction beyond Jimmy Cliff, beyond the Israelites, Desmond Decker, which is probably the first soul single I remember hearing in, 1966, 67, whenever that was. I bought that single, The Israelites. I don't remember it being called reggae music or knowing what reggae music was. But in the, I think 74, 75, this was a comp in the store, an import on Trojan Records. And it was my favorite comp at the time. And this is from Bam Bam to Cherry O Baby, my original copy on Trojan Records. And it only has, 4 artists. It has Toots and the Maytals, Desmond Decker and the Aces, Hoptown Lewis and the Chosen Few, and Eric Donaldson. And this is a wonderful comp of 4 artists, a bunch of songs. There are like 10 songs on here. Cherry O Baby, what a great song that is. But it's soulful, but it's all reggae, I think, is soulful. So this is my choice for reggae soul music. This comp that really was sort of around the time, Bob Marley was getting big. I heard this record, and Jimmy Cliff was putting out records that kind of went more pop after Harder They Come. But what a great album, a comp that is. Seek that out if you don't have it. Live in concert soul recording. Again, there's so many that, the Otis Reading would be one. The James Brown would have been one. But I think, the man who invented soul is Sam Cooke. And I couldn't do a soul video without mentioning Sam Cooke. This is Sam Cooke at the Copacabana, New York City. Very nightclubby, kitschy in a way, and the way he talked to the audience. But just a great record. One of the great, I wouldn't say this is his best album because he gets a little, just Try a Little Tenderness, of course. He does The Best Things in Life for Free, Bill Bailey. So he gets a little kitschy with his almost Vegas styling. So it's not the greatest live soul thing, and it's certainly not the greatest Sam Cooke record, but it's still a wonderful recording, so worth mentioning. And it gave me a chance to mention Sam Cooke again in this. The last question, at least prompt to show something, is a soul compilation release. And this is an album that I got turned on to from What's in My Bag. I don't remember who showed this. The Amoeba YouTube series, probably 10 years ago, or when this came out, maybe 8 years ago. It was 2008. So, okay, but I think I didn't get into it to the 2012 or so. And this is African Scream Contest. I have been, since this record, all in on Analog Africa, a German-based label where he goes around the continents, African continents, and South America, and gets these great old recordings and puts them out, reissues them in Germany. I follow them on Bandcamp. I probably have 40, maybe more, records of all kinds of funky, soulful music. This is like soulful funk, psychedelia at times. We're not talking about just great recordings. He probably takes, needle drops for some of these things, but this is a fantastic record. This is the place to start. It's probably out of print right now. He does repress every few years. You can go to Bandcamp and stream it. There's a volume 2 of African Scream Contest. It is a comp. He always has these great books and great stories talking about the album and the journey of finding this music. Look at this. How great is that? These are some of the records up to this point. But this literally has essays on every single track and artist in the book. Fantastic book. You know, most of these records, by the time I have them shipped FedEx from Germany, they end up being about $50 a pop. And most of them are double albums. But to me, this music is priceless. African Scream Contest, Analog Africa, anything they put out is very interesting. And I say 90% of the albums they put out are fantastic listens. Love this label, one of my favorites. Very soulful, funky, Africana, everything from the 50s to the 60s to the 70s into the 80s, and funky, great, like, you know, faux Fender guitars and shit, really good stuff. And last is a favorite soul channel. There are a handful of soul channels, but I have to give it to John, 6-inch piano player, 6-inch pianist out of Birmingham, because he shows things that I've never heard about. I've never seen before. He does needle drops. He knows so much about this music. So not only does he play the music and show the album cover, he knows deep down. And you know, this young lad, middle-aged lad from Birmingham, has turned me on to a lot of soul music, and he's just a joy. And he, you know, no frills, no nothing, no excess baggage. Just shows the records and he's out of here. Yeah, right. So that's it. So thanks for watching. Look in the links below to all these things that I've mentioned, and soul music, great soul music. Thank you, and thank you, Coleman, my buddy, for turning me on to the records that I didn't have. And thank you, Scott, for putting this list together. Mazzy loves you.